holding scientific research and discovery in respect, as we should, we must also be alert to the equal and opposite danger that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite.
We've signed a climate convention on the importance of economic instruments and free markets. Were included in this mammoth Agenda 21 document and the Rio Declaration. Let me be clear on one fundamental point. The United States fully intends to be the world's preeminent leader in protecting the global environment.
Coming up, Technocracy News. Welcome to Technocracy News for the last day in July of 2019, namely July 31. I am Patrick Wood for Technocracy News and Trends, editor-in-chief and founder of Technocracy News and Trends. Today, we're going to start out talking about the Green New Deal. This is one of my favorite topics because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has done us a great favor by trotting out her radical Green New Deal, which is basically everything that the United Nations ever wanted to do to the world, and it is also the heartbeat of technocracy. I've documented in my books very carefully that technocracy is sustainable development, and the Green New Deal lays out the crazy, radical agenda that these people have for the world. And this is not just an AOC thing, by the way. This is a United Nations thing. I've written a couple of articles to that effect on Technocracy News and Trends recently. Well, somebody's finally done some homework. This is a wonderful thing. The headline of this story is Green New Deal would cost at least $250,000 per household in the first 5 years of its implementation. In the first 5 years. The article starts out, according to a new study, the Green New Deal's implementation would cost the average American family $250,000 during the first 5 years. The costs are even higher for Americans living in Alaska. The study did not even take into account significant parts of the Green New Deal, since they are impossible to calculate. After all, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez hasn't even introduced an actual bill, but only a resolution calling for future bills. It's less a concrete plan and more a worldview statement justifying hundreds of future laws. The study, jointly co-authored by the Competitive Enterprise Institute, or CEI, and Power the Future, PTF, analyzed the additional electricity demanded for various projects like decarbonizing the economy, the cost associated with shipping and logistics, the cost of new carbon-free vehicles, and the cost to retrofit every building in America. Just these 4 types of costs. And that's not all of it, but these are 4 of the major cost categories. They add up to more than $250,000 per household in the first 5 years, and they claim that that is a conservative estimate. CEI President Kent Lessman said, quote, "The Green New Deal is a radical blueprint to decarbonize the American economy by refashioning how we grow food, move people and goods, source and distribute electricity, and build the structures where we live, work, and play. Our analysis shows that, if implemented, the Green New Deal would cost for American households at least tens of thousands of dollars annually on a permanent basis." He continued, "Perhaps that's why exactly 0 Senate Democrats, including the resolution's 12 co-sponsors, voted for the Green New Deal when they had the chance." He continued, "Economists and experts have been warning us for months about the devastating effect of the Green New Deal, and now we have the numbers to prove it," PTF Executive Director Daniel Turner said in a statement. He continued, "This study only calculates a fraction of the cost of AOC's radical plan, which amounts to a socialist free-for-all with no regard for the American taxpayer." I think I'll stop there and just make this comment. He states, this amounts to a socialist free-for-all. He doesn't get the picture. Mr. Turner needs to read a copy of Technocracy, The Hard Road to World Order, or Technocracy Rising, and he'll quickly find out this is not a socialist free-for-all. This is the death of capitalism and free enterprise, so that technocracy can rise out of the ashes. This is not socialism. And AOC can call herself a socialist all she wants to, but what she is espousing is pure sustainable development coming out of the United Nations, which, as I said, has been documented to be technocracy. It's a resource-based economic system where energy is at the core as the accounting system, and the United Nations has sworn to overthrow capitalism and free enterprise in order to implement sustainable development. So the Green New Deal is no Trojan horse per se, but it should not be called socialism because it's not socialism. The odds of any Congress to adopt such a plan is likely very remote. However, already we see the aspect of the Hegelian dialectic being applied, where you have thesis, antithesis, and then synthesis of ideas. Democrats are already moving towards AOC and setting up compromise plans. Well, we can't have it that radical, but how about doing it this way? And then they propose another more moderate compromise. Nevertheless, the Green New Deal should be seen for what it is. It's been laid out before us. It's been proven to be absolutely insane in many different levels, impossible to implement. But the most important thing here is that to the extent that the Green New Deal is implemented across America, it will corrupt capitalism and free enterprise everywhere it appears. We see this already in New York City. We see it in Los Angeles, where both of those mayors have declared a Green New Deal for their individual cities. Other major cities are following close behind. And if you look at the state of cities that are adopting these kinds of policies, you see the outcome very quickly. Los Angeles now has over 60,000 homeless people. They have rats. They have disease. They have an impossible situation that they can only dream about fixing, but they can't fix. All that to say, thank you, AOC, for letting us all know how radical your program is. The next story is a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Not really, but sort of. Many grocery stores have been introducing robots to the floor, where robots are wandering up and down the aisles looking for spills and doing inventory of shelves and things like that. One grocery store robot named Marty has been introduced back east in hundreds of stores. Marty is a googly-eyed robot that travels up and down the aisles looking for spills, looking for obstacles. When it finds something, it simply stops and hollers for help to come fix the problem. Well, this article is titled, Marty, the Grocery Store Robot, Aggravates Shoppers and Employees. Well, if you're going to offend somebody, you might as well offend everybody. I wrote at the top of this, technocrat-minded engineers build things according to their own image and then wonder why the rest of the world yawns and says, get lost. In this case, Marty the robot manages to annoy everyone. The writer of this article, Nicole Gallucci, she writes, attention shoppers, I've seen the future of grocery store technology, and let me tell you, we could do better. I'm no Marty McFly, she writes. I simply reside in a small Connecticut town, which means that in addition to doing extremely New England things like commuting to the city on the Metro North, bragging about beaches and the fact that the state inspired the picturesque fictional town of Gilmore Girls, I occasionally spend some time on the weekends shopping for groceries at a local Stop and Shop. Prior to 2019, the Stop and Shop experience was similar to that offered by most any other large grocery store chain. But this year, Stop and Shop introduced giant gray aisle patrolling robots at more than 200 stores in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New Jersey. Now, food shopping comes with unprecedented levels of anxiety and absurdity. Each of the robots weighs a massive 140 pounds and cost a whopping $35,000. Oddly, all of the robots are named Marty, and atop their tall frames, which tower over my own 5'3" stature, rests a large pair of googly eyes, so as not to come off as completely faceless, emotionless, lifeless bots. If you're confused as to what these rolling mechanical columns do, Martys also wear the following description on their bodies like a name tag. Quote, this store is monitored by Marty for your safety. Marty is an autonomous robot that uses image capturing technology to report spills, debris, and other potential hazards to store employees to improve your shopping experience. Essentially, once Marty identifies a hazard using its sensors, it stops dead in its tracks, changes its signature operating lights from blue to yellow, and repeatedly announces, "Caution, hazard detected." Oh, it does it in English and Spanish, too. One of the several catches to their existence, however, is that the robots don't actually clean anything. Marty is advertised as an aisle-sweeping superhero, but is simply a messenger that shouts about a problem until a more capable human comes and removes whatever the hazard may be. Upon learning this fact, some people like myself and the woman heard in this video, shared by Twitter, are rightfully confused. Jennifer Jordan tweeted, "Apparently my supermarket has just gotten a robot. Its name is Marty. It detects spills, doesn't clean them, just starts shouting if it sees one." Well, Marty may or may not last in grocery stores. People aren't too happy with it. He gets in the way of shoppers as they push their carts down the aisles. It's hard enough navigating a busy grocery store with just the carts, but now Marty is there to make sure everybody has to move aside a little bit more, because poor old Marty can't move that fast, nor does he see how to navigate through all the shopping carts. Long live Marty. The last story is going to be a little bit more serious, as is normal, I think, with this broadcast. Everybody knows by now that Boris Johnson has taken the helm in England, that he's going to navigate a Brexit, and he's appointed some of his cabinet already. One cabinet member, Priti Patel, is the new Home Secretary. She's been an ardent Bojo supporter since day one. She identifies as a conservative. She identifies with Brexit. She's Eurosceptic in that sense that she does not like the EU and very critical of it. On one hand, she looks like the model conservative. On the other hand, the first thing she called for is for a backdoor to access all encrypted messages on the internet. And we have to think about this. The UK Home Secretary wants to see backdoor access to all encrypted messages on the internet. Now, many of the messages we already have, by the way, are encrypted end-to-end. The encryption is not impossible to break, but it takes too long, so it's not practical to unencrypt something on a real-time basis. So Ms. Patel wants to change all that. This article says new Home Secretary, pictured last week in London, is having discussions with Britain's Five Eyes intelligence allies about combating cyber threats and having better access to encrypted messages. Well, in this first paragraph, we see an alarm bell, a big one, Five Eyes intelligence allies, Five Eyes. But the article goes on, British spies want backdoor access to encrypted messages on social media to prevent terror threats and child abuse. I don't know how you can say terror threats and child abuse in the same breath, because the two are radically different. Child abuse is a very vague term. It could refer to any number of things, including human trafficking, but it certainly is not equivalent to terror threats where bombs are set off, killing dozens, if not hundreds of people. In any case, the article continues, officials from the UK, US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, known as the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, are meeting in London to discuss being able to get lawful access to WhatsApp discussions that could be linked to crime. It comes after the London Bridge terrorists used WhatsApp to discuss plans which British officials say helped prevent the 2017 plot that killed 8 people from being identified. One such technique suggested by the UK intelligence agency, GCHQ, is to allow its agents to be silently added to chats or calls so that they can observe the conversation without being detected. Encryption is increasingly being used to protect privacy on social media platforms, with WhatsApp already using it, Facebook due to introduce it to its Messenger app, and Google exploring encrypted browsers. And there are, by the way, many other messaging applications that are fully encrypted end-to-end. Meanwhile, new Home Secretary Priti Patel has pledged to strengthen Britain's ties with its Five Eyes allies and confirmed that they would also be discussing ways to bolster border defenses and tackle foreign Islamic threats. A spokesman for the Home Office said, quote, "We need to ensure that our law enforcement and security and intelligence agencies are able to gain lawful, and exceptional access to the information they need. And of course, what they need is what they say they need. Five Eyes intelligence chiefs want tech firms to do more to help them and say such access would only be reserved for exceptional cases where there was a serious threat of terrorism or child sexual abuse, with the judge or government minister having the final sign-off. Well, let's discuss the Five Eyes initiative just for a minute. We first learned about Five Eyes through the NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden several years ago. Up to that point, it had not been secret, but their operations had been certainly clouded. The Five Eyes program essentially began in 1946 during World War II. It was an alliance of 5 countries. Now, here they are: the U.S., the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. And of course, all of those countries from the UK on were protectorates at one time of the United Kingdom. So this is a cozy little relationship amongst very friendly allies. They developed back then a series of bilateral agreements that provided sharing of intelligence. It was called signals intelligence at the time, or SIGINT, S-I-G-I-N-T. And those relationships have continued to evolve over a period of time. In recent years, with the advent of electronic technology and all kinds of other signals besides radio signals, hand signals that they used back in World War II to communicate, today it's gotten a lot more sophisticated. One report notes that Five Eyes is a close-knit group. The level of cooperation under the UK-USA agreement is so complete that the national product is often indistinguishable. This has resulted in former intelligence officials explaining that the close-knit cooperation that exists under the UK-USA agreement means that SIGINT customers in both capitals seldom know which country generated either the access or the product itself. In addition to fluidly sharing collected SIGINT, it is understood that many intelligence facilities run by the respective Five Eyes countries are jointly operated, even jointly staffed, by members of the intelligence agencies of the Five Eyes countries. Each facility collects SIGINT, which can then be shared with the other Five Eyes states. Now, this points out that essentially the intelligence agencies of these various countries have merged together to the extent that they're operating joint offices with joint staff and sharing everything that comes out. This has interesting implications for national security in the United States, where we're allowing the very core of our own intelligence operations to be shared by foreign countries. This one report continues, a core program that provides filtering capability is known as X-Keyscore. It has been described by internal NSA presentations as an analytic framework which enables a single search to query a 3-day rolling buffer of all unfiltered data stored at 150 global sites on 700 database servers. The NSA X-Keyscore system has sites that appear in Five Eyes countries. The system indexes email addresses, file names, IP addresses, port numbers, cookies, webmail, and chat usernames and buddy lists, phone numbers, and metadata from web browsing sessions, including searches queried, among many other types of data that flow through their collection points. This is pretty amazing. Their actions have been justified in secret on the basis of secret interpretations of international law and classified agreements. By remaining in the shadows, our intelligence agencies and the governments who control them have removed our ability to challenge their actions and their impact upon human rights. We cannot hold our governments accountable when their actions are clouded through secret deals and covert legal frameworks. Secret, convoluted, or clouded law can never be considered law within a democratic society governed by the rule of law. Well, the Five Eyes Consortium is very concerning to all citizens, and it has nothing to do with being conservative or liberal. The Five Eyes Consortium has navigated its way through every conceivable type of political framework, progressive or liberal or conservative or moderate, and has continued to operate and continues to operate today in spite of the political philosophy of the ruling party. And in this case, it does seem a little bit incongruous that Ms. Patel would be an arch conservative on one hand, but have no regard for basic human rights and privacy on the other. And the fact that she's been swept into the Five Eyes Consortium to do joint intelligence is concerning for all freedom-loving citizens. I want to express at the end of this the importance of having facts that line up with reality. The two books that I have authored on technocracy, Technocracy Rising was the first one, subtitle, The Trojan Horse of Global Transformation. And then more recently, Technocracy, The Hard Road to World Order. These books clearly lay out the facts on how the world has been transformed. I have stated for years that there is no difference in terms of Republican versus Democrat, liberal versus conservative. Any political persuasion has made no difference whatsoever to the people that are pushing sustainable development, Agenda 21, 2030 Agenda, all of which is technocracy, warmed over from the 1930s and brought to us thanks to the efforts of members of the Trilateral Commission, started in 1973. My books lay this out very clearly. It's disappointing that more people are not taking advantage of this information. One of the reasons why is because of shadow banning by Facebook, by Google, and other major information platforms. These big tech purveyors of information are attempting to create their own reality and give it to anybody who will come and take it. Their reality is framed by the information that they allow you to see and by the information that they don't allow you to see. This is called social engineering. It's called mind manipulation. And the battle is for your mind. I urge all people today to leave the Google search engine behind. Quit using it as a source of looking for information on the internet. The reason is that no matter what your search is about, you will be presented with a skewed filter that paints a picture that they want you to see. And in many cases, by excluding information, even if it's obnoxious information, by excluding the entire story, you are never left in a position where you can make up your own mind. They will make it up for you. It is technocracy that is a clear and present danger to society and to the global society as well. But it's not political, it's economic. And it's coming to us under the guise of sustainable development, Green New Deal, green economy, etc. The intelligence agencies of the world have been combining rapidly to dominate the citizens of the world. And on one hand, they say that they're only going to use the intelligence gathered for benevolent purposes. We have absolutely no guarantee of that whatsoever because there's no transparency, there's no oversight, there's no accountability. So I encourage you to make a commitment to read one or both of my books on technocracy. It'll connect the dots for you in ways that you've never seen before, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. If it would help you, you can go to Amazon.com and simply type in the search word technocracy. Both books will come up. You can read some of the reviews that other people have put in on either book. See what they say. Then make up your own mind to pick up a copy and read it. If you buy a copy from technocracy.news, there is a store there where you can buy either book or in multiple quantities. It's been always my practice to autograph a copy as I send it out. If you buy it from Amazon, I can't do that, obviously, since Amazon produces it and sends it out to you. But I encourage you to make a deeper study of this whole scenario. America doesn't have a lot of time left to say stop. And we may be past the tipping point now, but I don't think there's too many Americans that would not stand up if they knew that they needed to. This has been creeping up on us for far too long. America needs to rise up and say no more. We're not taking any more of this madness. No more robots in grocery stores. No more Green New Deal nonsense that's going to bury capitalism and free enterprise and bury all of the people in society with things like $250,000 debt per household in the first 5 years of implementation. It's absolutely insane. We need to say no. No more. No more spying. No more crazy scientific solutions to problems that really don't exist. Get back to the business of governing society according to our Constitution and the rule of law. I'm Patrick Wood for Technocracy News and Trends. We'll see you next time.